Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Daphne Noteware, Manager of Product Strategy at ATPCO, and I'd like to welcome you to our panel discussion on the critical importance of establishing strong data foundations to drive artificial intelligence. In our rapidly evolving digital age, the success of AI and the applications and outcomes of it hinge on one thing: data, the integrity, the quality, and the accessibility of data. With me today, I have a wonderful panel, 3 of our industry colleagues and experts. Together, we will discuss the pivotal role of data to enable AI innovation, decision-making, and transformative industry incomes, and explore how getting data foundations in place will enable AI innovation, decision-making, and provide the benefit to the industry. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Daphne.
Thanks, Daphne.
Appreciate that you're willing to share your insights. If you would, please, let's start with introductions, starting closest to me.
Yes, thank you, Dave Harvey, Southwest Airlines. Hard to believe, 25 years at the airline. I lead all of our sales and distribution activities. And I just want to give a shout out to the Southwest Airlines team real quick. It's great seeing so many friends and colleagues at the conference. But so many of you have said how nice it is to work with the teams. That's what makes all this worth it, so thank you.
Yeah, Rick.
Yeah, sure. I'm Rick Cini. I'm the VP of Innovation with ATPCO for a little over 3 months now, newly acquired. Background, I teach cloud computing and machine learning at Baylor University. If you saw me yesterday, that was me in the Hertz commercial. So if I did meet you yesterday,
it's good. Who are you representing today?
This is Harbortown.
And Yuri?
I'm Uri Yerushalmi. I'm the Chief AI Officer and co-founder at Fetcher. Academic background is a PhD in computational neuroscience and AI. Professional background, I'm quite new to the airline industry. I come more from an algorithmic trading background and other types of industries. And in recent 5 years since we've founded Fetcher, while most of the scientific community was focused on building AI models to understand visual and textual data, we were more focused on building market models that deal with market data.
Daphne, I'd be remiss not to thank Lori and Amy this morning from the Airline Reporting Corporation and JetBlue Ventures for the shout out and their investment in us as part of the acquisition process. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you again to each of you for being here and sharing your insights. Why don't we go ahead and get started? So to start, I would like to ask each of you the same first question. From your perspective, how has the quality of data directly impacted the success or the failure of AI projects in your organization? Yuri, maybe you could start.
Well, quality of data, I can say that it's crucial and essential for the success of AI projects, but it's not sufficient. Because in some sense, AI projects are like a chain where the existence of each of the links in the chain is essential for the strength of the whole and the integrity of the AI project. And in AI projects, the difficulty is usually identifying the missing links. So other links in that sense would be, for example, quantity of data, because quantity is very important. And it's not just adding more and more data sources, because if you add data sources that are more correlated one with the other, then actually you didn't add more principal components. So the success would be dependent on having many data sources from various data generators, for example, from out of the airline industry, from hospitality, from capital markets, and so. And the success then would be dependent also on the quality of the model to be able to understand all of the modalities, because some of the data sources would be tabular, some would be time series dependent, some would be more multidimensional. So then it gets to the success of the model to be able to deal with all of these modalities. And again, other links would be the quality of the data pipelines and so. So from our experience, only after having all of these ingredients in place, we could have our market model to be able to predict accurately the anticipated market dynamics.
Yeah. Thanks, Uri. All right. Same question for you, Dave. How has the quality of data directly impacted the success or failure of AI projects in your organization?
In my opinion, it hasn't changed much. Typical systems, it's kind of garbage in, garbage out. Simplistic, you've got your interface with your employees or your customer, you've got your language model, and then you've got your data foundation. And we've been doing a lot of work on integrated data and customer data platform. But if you can't count on that foundation of data, you're just not going to be able to maximize it. So we've seen in a few places where, because the data is not where it needs to be, it's actually limited some of our capabilities. So we got to get the house in order, and then you start putting the language model on top of that, and that really unlocks the value.
Yeah, thank you. And Rick?
Yeah, I guess I have kind of a little bit of a different take. I'm a huge aficionado of what they call data-centric AI. So in layman terms, that's fix your data, not your model. So this is a new kind of area in the last 2 or 3 years. Before it's been, hey, it doesn't matter, gather all your data, throw it in a data lake. Doesn't matter if it's structured, unstructured, the model will figure it out. You'll get somebody to tune all the knobs on it. 12 months later, you'll get it into production. And that's just not where it needs to be. It needs to be an iterative process, applying AI on top of data to make the quality better, enrich the data, and a variety of things. I think we've all seen sort of the media hype around some of the failures of generative AI. For example, some lawyer that cited a case from Law and Order episode in 1997, for example. And so my co-founder, he came up with this term. He's Scottish. He calls them porcupines, those hallucinations, porcupines. And I think he affectionately called ChatGPT 3.5 the porcupine generator, although 4 is much better, and Copilot on GitHub is much better as well.
Yeah, awesome. I like that. Fix your data, not your model. That fits very well with our message here today. Okay, so next I'm going to ask each of you individual questions. So let's start with you, Dave. Southwest has always been focused on people and heart first.
Indeed.
Could you share how greater data foundations and leveraging AI helps to strengthen that focus for the future?
Yeah, it is an exciting time, and thank you for calling that out, Daphne, about just the warmth, the hospitality. We do truly believe our people are best in class. There's still a lot of mundane, remedial tasks that honestly our teams don't like doing. And it's not the most fun thing to kind of engage from a customer perspective as well. So whether it's customer service, problem solving, digital assistance, we've got use cases just exploding, both on the commercial and the operational side. But we're taking some of those tasks off the plates of our employees so they can be heads up, proactive, and truly deliver the hospitality that people know and love at Southwest. So and ultimately, yes, there's efficiency, there's productivity, so there's some savings, maybe even some cost avoidance. We're a growth carrier, so we're going to keep growing. Maybe you don't have to hire as many people in this one area. So it's definitely bringing value to the company, but it's also a win for the customer and the employee.
Yeah, that's really great, and how we pass these benefits on to our customers. So a second question for you. So then what strategies are you using to ensure a successful outcome as it relates to the data foundations?
Yeah, we made a big strategic decision, just said, hey, look, this is exploding. It's kind of taken on a life of its own. We actually need to name a head. Angela Morano is our VP of AI and data. So she's now got a dedicated team. We work with a lot of fabulous partners, but then we also put the right governance structures, which partners we're going to work with, which models, what has to be kind of overseen by the mothership versus, hey, here's some guardrails. We're going to let some test and learn activities just kind of go run. And it's actually been really healthy. We've had these in the data space, data governance, for quite some time, so it was a natural extension on AI. One quick note while I'm hot here is an example of some of the great governance around data is we're actually launching a brand new data product right now, Travel Track. It's an event-based system for all the ticketing and traveler movement. Really is going to become the gold standard in duty of care, working with TMCs and buyers. So we'd love to engage folks more on that. But it's just an example of some of the data hygiene and new products you can roll out with that governance.
Yeah, that's really exciting news about Travel Track. So thanks for sharing that with us. Okay, so Yuri, you're next. I recently read an article that you wrote and published in NASDAQ about the increasing use of generative AI in business and took away this quote. The rise of this technology marks a new era in business decision-making, where human intellect collaborates with AI efficiency. It's not about replacing human judgment, but by enhancing it. Maybe you could elaborate on this point, please.
Yeah, sure. So I think now in the post-ChatGPT era, it's quite clear, and there's no doubt that these kind of systems are superior to humans in understanding the underlying forces of certain situations or in decision-making. And actually, that's not new. We know now for decades, most of the funds in capital markets are being traded by these kinds of systems, by AI and algorithmic trading systems. And we also have seen it in 2017, which is ages ago in AI terms, when AlphaGo system have beaten in the game of Go the human champion. We've seen it during the last year in ChatGPT, the amazing things that such systems know to do. And we see it every day now in AI systems that are controlling pricing automatically and generating revenue uplift that is very significant. But having that in mind, it's important to note that, especially in the airline system, which is very complicated and has its own issues with the importance of the human channel and the communications, it's important to note that such systems are making decisions automatically and can take all of the micro decision making from the humans and leave for the stakeholders, pricing managers, and so to leave for them more strategic thinking. So the way we see it is that micro decision making should be made by AI systems, leaving for the humans more time for making the more strategic decisions, but at the same time enhancing the strategic decisions by feeding the humans with the understanding of the underlying factors in the market, by for example, showing the humans what's really going on, because humans can't really understand all of the data points in the market. And because of that, we are also using language models to bridge that communication of the information that AI understands to the humans to enhance their capabilities.
Yeah, that is really great. I love that. So, and it's just, as you said, freeing up time for more strategic thinking and enhancing that human judgment. So for a second question, could you perhaps share an example of how you leverage AI to support your airline customers today and how you're actively working to ensure the proper data foundations are in place for that?
Yeah, maybe the most interesting case of our deployments is our deployment that was done on Virgin Atlantic case, where we gathered all of these ingredients that I mentioned before, the different data sources, and it was very important to have a robust pipeline with validation points throughout the pipeline, in many places in the pipeline, checking the validity of the data. And only then we could get to a situation where we have a live system that is fully automatic that continuously scans the competitive landscape of Virgin Atlantic in that case, and continuously and fully automatically publishes prices. Once we had these rigorous validation points in the pipeline, then we could count on the system to make the right decisions and to publish prices automatically without any human control. Now, the result in that case would be not only the revenue uplift, but also the enhancement of the humans that I mentioned before, using a language model to feed the humans continuously about events that are going on in the market without the human really noticing them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you mentioned data as an ingredient. We believe that data is really it's the key ingredient that will help us to fully realize the full potential and benefit of artificial intelligence. All right, thank you, Yuri. So Rick, moving on to you. With the recent combination of ATPCO and 3Victors, we bring together ATPCO's existing product line with 3Victors' data science capabilities, which will enable us to support the industry's transformation to more dynamic offer creation. So a vital component of this, of course, is data and artificial intelligence. Would you please share more on ATPCO and 3Victors' role in supporting getting those data foundations right for this transformation?
Yeah, so as Yuri mentioned, sometimes the type of data and the volume of data, the richness of the data sets. So we're super excited, by the way, because we have science that's been waiting on some of the assets that are super rich, like Route Happy data sets and a variety of tax and surcharge data sets that we don't have access to in the past or couldn't afford them as a startup company, for example. So I think when you talk about data and data quality, it's a big umbrella. There's things like conciseness and accuracy. But what does accuracy really mean? As you start to dive into it, it's like, I'll give you an example. It's like, is the $1,400 fare from New York to Phoenix 10 minutes into the fourth quarter of the NFC Championship game between New York and when they're 10 points ahead, is that an actual outlier, or is that the actual price point for a while? Or Ryanair's £1 fares or Spirit Airlines $9 fares, are those outliers, or are those part of the data? Do you get rid of them? Do you keep them? Are they part of the model? And these are the kind of things when you do data-centric AI that are extremely important. The written, what's called feature engineering, and sort of what I'll call old school AI, which is supervised learning, which is not quite as fancy as the new generative AI. But I think we're going to use a lot of old school AI to continue to do AI on things, do predictions as they make sense, mapping, for example, fair basis codes that don't exist in data, tying together brands and normalizing brands so you can do channel comparison. Those are all types of things that are super important as part of data, what I'll call data quality and richness as well.
Mm-hmm. And a second question for you. So what are the primary challenges that we'll need to address with the industry?
That's a great question. I think a couple things. One is data explosion. So with NDC, you're going to see a lot of movement into the retail section of airlines. So there's going to be a lot more retailing, consumer-centric sales. There's going to be the look-to-book ratios are going to go up dramatically because of that. And so you're going to have this data explosion, and what's signal and what's noise. There's a principle called the Pareto principle, which is sort of 20% of, 80% of the outcomes are generated by 20% of the causes, for example. And so which ones do we pick for those particular items, for example? And I think the other thing in a couple years, I think we're all going to be deploying our own autonomous agents and sort of an agent-centric Gen AI model where it's going to go shop on our behalf for us and bring back a bunch of interesting content and ask us if we'd like to buy it, for example. And I'm concerned that that's going to create an explosion of data as well. It sort of looks like a robot, but not a robot, sort of data that's going to come to our websites, and especially in the airline industry and through the NDC channels, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's great to call out those challenges. I think we framed them as challenges, but we could also see them as opportunities for us to work together and for us to call on industry collaboration to overcome those.
We need everybody's help in this room, especially on those side, to do some of this experimentation. A lot of this is all brand new, proof of concepts. There's at least a dozen available at ATPCO. We'd love to work with everybody in the room on some of these ideas that we have, and just take it a little bit slow. It's a little bit fast in some cases. I think slowing down and maybe pulling back a little bit. I know I've got this sort of Gen AI hype. I've been told I'm too excited about it. You know, there's 100 today, this morning, there's 104 AI papers filed. Same day, 2 years ago, 3. So there's a lot of hype around this stuff, and it's hard to keep track of a variety of it. So I think kind of stepping back, concentrating on the data, getting your data lake systems and the cost structure of those things so that it doesn't cost an arm and a leg to store it and access it is also a key component as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's great to have the excitement around AI, but again, want to have those solid data foundations in place to be able to best drive it forward. All right. So that's the end of the individual questions. I would like to, in closing, ask each of you the same final question. And that is, what advice would you give to others looking to improve the quality of their data foundations for more successful AI implementation? Let's start with you, Yuri.
Well, my advice would be simple in that case. Don't wait and be first. Because back then, when I was in the trading industry, I saw how such transformative technologies reshape entire industries. And my lesson is that the early adopters of such groundbreaking technologies usually gain a lasting presence in their respective markets. And the thing that happened back then, which is quite similar to what we are witnessing now, is that there were several key events related to the infrastructure of US exchanges. What we know now as NASDAQ was forming then. Electronic communication networks, ECNs, started popping up. And at the same time, there were a group of trading firms that were founded that established their underlying infrastructure on these new technological concepts. And today, if you check, the dominating firms in the trading vertical are these companies. And the reason is because once they got in, they had the chance to set such high entry barriers that no one else could get in for decades later. And the way I see it, the airline industry is going through the same type of breakthrough, this time fueled by AI. And the early adopters would be the ones that gain the fruits from such an era, and the ones that would be lagging behind would need to face such high entry barriers that would be impossible to overcome.
Okay. And same question for you, Dave.
Yeah, and I'm going to tie it to a comment that Rick was making as well about, you know, one of the things to try to manage through all this. You know, it's interesting, you talked about the papers, 3 to 104. All of us had a full plate a year ago, and now this is completely on the scene, and you had a massive amount of work to get done, you and your teams. So you've got to be intentional, a little bit to Yuri. You got to get started, you got to explore, you got to do some tests and learns, but you can't take your eye off, you know, other kind of core things that are out there. So I would encourage everyone, whatever's right for your organization, put a little bit of structure, a little bit of governance around. Start small, you know, pick a few things where you can really tangibly show, okay, if we can put this in place, we're driving whatever value it is, whether it's revenue, whether it's cost. I hear a lot of organizations at the senior level, they feel like some of this stuff is kind of witchcraft, like, hey, how is this actually gonna move the needle for your business? I would encourage you to find the right 1 or 2 sponsors or champions at the highest level. Because if you try to do this grassroots and then kind of plead your case, it's just hard, kind of carrying water uphill that way. So pick a few shots. We like to use the term at Southwest, we're going to shoot some bullets, and once you kind of prove it out, then you can start firing cannonballs and getting really aggressive with it. So pick the right projects, show the value, get your sponsorship, and that will kind of get the machine working at your organization.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So, 1 degree shifts, one step at a time, we will make incremental progress as an industry. All right, and then Rick.
Yeah, I'll take a crack at it. So I think being in a startup, you have this sort of philosophy of fail fast, right? So you have to be out there doing it, experimenting, trying things. Sometimes they don't work. They're not really failures. You're just learning as you go. And I think you start off small and you continue to grow it. By doing it and jumping in, a lot of hurdles get knocked down. There's info security hurdles. There's cybersecurity hurdles within an organization. There's data lake and how data warehousing. There's digital transformation occurring at the same time in airlines, for example. That all has to kind of be blended in with that same workflow that's going on. And it's not easy. It's difficult to move from on-premise to the cloud. It's, 5, 6, 7-year projects in some cases. So, and now you layer on all this complexity on top of it. You do need to hire some good talent, absolutely. I think working with ATPCO and industry standard is a great way to get involved with it and learn about it. That's my job too, is to help everybody understand sort of the basics of these things. So I think when it's all said and done, it's just do like you would normally do anything new. Just treat it. But I would suggest that data is like becoming part of shopping exchanges and shopping exchanges and stuff like that, so that you don't have to worry about paying ridiculous sums of money for this data explosion, which I'm pretty sure is about to occur. Mm-hmm. So that would be my suggestion, just to start small, just like Dave mentioned. And as Yuri mentioned too, it's important that you do dip your toe into it at the speed that makes sense for your organization.
Yeah. And I heard also, you might make some mistakes along the way, but you take those, you learn from them. And again, that's just all in the spirit of improving the process, the data foundations themselves. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for all of your perspectives. So as we prepare to close out this session, it's really just clear, I think, that robust data foundations are paramount in driving the advancement of artificial intelligence. And I want to thank each of our panelists and experts for being here today to share your perspectives and your insights, and also for encouraging folks to get involved and learn more and be part of the solution as we move this transformation forward together. So it is clear that the industry is going through a very exciting time of transformation as we move to more dynamic, customized offers. And the new and improved data that's needed to drive those science-based advancements is got to be a priority for us to collaborate on. So especially, as Rick mentioned, the data is growing in volumes and complexity each day. And ATPCO is actively working in this space to lead and collaborate with you, to build out data foundations, to build out that data enrichment and integration in order to unlock value for the industry. If you're interested in learning more, we will have lots of breakout sessions tomorrow, and we encourage you to come sit in and listen and learn about ATPCO's current dynamic offer solutions and those that we're exploring for the future. Otherwise, we'd love to connect with you offline if that is preferred. We would love to speak with you and get to know you better. So in closing, we have a call to action, to work together, to learn together, and to partner to get the data foundations in place. So let's commit to having a culture of collaboration to ensure that we collectively pave a way for a data-driven, AI-powered story. Thank you.